Hello and good evening, everyone. I, Advocate Ashish Vilas Sonone, welcome you for today's session organized by Think India Pune and Adhivakta Parishad Western Maharashtra. It would be an interesting online session with the legendary Honorable Dr. Subramanian Swamiji. Friends, you all know Think India is a joint forum for students from IISCs, IIMs, NIHMNs, and National Law School universities. In short, the premier educational institutes of India. And it was formulated with an intent to bind the students with an Indian nationalistic string and to harness the national ethos and treasures with an aim of national reconstruction. Friends, likewise, Akhil Bharatiya Adhivakta Parishad is the biggest organization of Indian lawyers and it works with the motto of Nyaya Mama Dharmaha. Since its inception in the year 1992, by the hands of or by the idea of Honorable Dattopantaji Thengdi, Adhivakta Parishad is working towards the object of resurrecting Bharatiya values and igniting universal Bharatiya ethos in the heart of advocates. The Parishad strives for improving efficacy and standards of the bar and the judiciary of the country. The present unprecedented challenge posed in front of us by the COVID 19 scenario has created an unparalleled challenge in front of the society at large. The magnanimity of the challenge and the complexities it brings to Bharata is huge. Therefore, in these troubled times, a dialogue, a discussion, a guidance from wise men can create sanity in the agitated minds. Therefore, with that intent, today's session has been organized. And I believe it is very crucial from creating that sort of calmness within the society at large by hearing from person of eminence like Dr. Swamy. Dr. Swamy needs no introduction. He's a human being par excellence. He's an economist. He's a lawyer. He's an academician. He's a politician with difference. He is the crusader of corruption and proud proponent of Sanatana Dharma. His formal introduction, if at all somebody wants it, he's a Rajya Sabha MP, former Union Cabinet Minister. Held he held several portfolios as a cabinet minister. He is a Harvard PhD. He's a professor of economics, and last but not least, BJP's national executive member. I think if at all we need to introduce Dr. Swamy, maybe a session of this kind would fall short. Therefore, without taking much of the time, I now invite Dr. Swamy to enlighten us. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Ashish ji. I'm very proud and pleased to be part of this program, particularly since Dattopan Thengdi was associated with it. Dattopan Thengdi was almost like a guru to me in the sense when I joined Jansang. He guided me through the trade union movement. He made me president of many of the trade union subparts like the banking, NOBW, and insurance, and then railways and so on. So, I mean, he was truly a giant intellectual, and many of the things he wrote especially on Swadeshi, on integral humanism and so on, has molded my thinking. So, first of all, I say pranam to his memory, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Now, the topic you have given me is COVID-19, changing life, law, and economy. It's a tough subject because this is a growing subject in the sense this COVID, which is a new branch of a virus, the family of viruses is called coronavirus, and this is the most latest one, and 19 stands for the 2019, and so this particular virus has been deadly, and I think those days in the 1910 to 1920 when we had this influenza epidemic, our medical profession, our medical sciences were so much behind what we have today, and yet the deaths, international death rates, or the casualties have been much higher than the influenza that came that time. But then you know that we conquered influenza ultimately, and now flu is something that you can deal with it on a 2 3 day basis. The same way, let us be sure that the human ingenuity is such that we will find a way to conquer COVID-19 and move ahead. But there will be many things that we have to change in our behavior, both physical behavior and cultural behavior. And therefore, this topic is a very timely topic, which will be discussed in the coming years, in my opinion, to make it a complete and thorough understanding of the situation. First of all, let me say that this virus came out of a study that was partnered by the Wuhan Institute of the University Wuhan Institute of Virology with the United States Defense Department, and the United States Defense Department also participate by financing that project. That project also was carried out in India, in Nagaland, because you got lots of bats in Nagaland, and that was done by the same Wuhan Institute of Virology, the Defense Department, and the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. When I raised this matter, I found out that the government had never been permission had never been sought, and the government did not give any kind of permission for this, and so an inquiry is going on. But I'm saying that it has been quite easy for people to find fault with country A, country B, country C, but you will soon find that in these researches, there's a lot of countries which participate without thinking, and therefore now we do certainly need a clear understanding of a new law which will guide in future such researches. Now, life has changed in many ways for us, and I don't think we'll ever go back to the same kind of life because of the experiences we have had in the last 60, 65 days. For example, we now know how to deal with spare time. I mean, you have no alternative but to stay at home in the lockdown, and then you found interesting ways by which you could use your spare time. I myself have enjoyed this 65 days because in my busy political life for the last 50 years, I never got a minute's rest in the sense of having nothing to do. Either I was coming in from somewhere and then going into some other place the next day, or attending parliament, or addressing a public meeting. I was always kept on moving. I didn't have much time to do reflective thinking, read books, and so on. So this 65 days I've utilized for what I've always hoped one day I'll get a chance to, and that is read my books, read old notes, prepare new ideas for books, and so on. So I think this concept of how to use your spare time now for the people of India, and particularly the urban educated people, uh, is something that we have certainly learned in terms of changing our lifestyle and the ability to remove stress, because you really didn't know when is all this going to end, and so therefore you just drop the idea of any expectation whether the corona virus is going to go away tomorrow or day after. You stop thinking like that, so it became a kind of a peace of mind. Now, the other thing that is that there has been now a new awareness of personal hygiene, and I'm sure that this is now going to continue. Washing your hands regularly with soap, making sure that you where you breathe, either you breathe in a healthy place or you have a covering on your nose. This is another. And we have also discovered, at least many of us, the ancient Hindu cures, or at least which provide you with great deal of relief from Ayurveda, oil massages, and so on. And so I think you will see after this corona virus matter is over, Indians will now become more and more active in resorting to our traditional medicines and to oil massages and so on as a way of supplementing the physical exercises that we used to do to keep healthy. So this will be another major change in our lifestyle. People setting aside time for improving your health, not rushing from one place to another without actually giving your body a chance to renew itself. I also think that we have done quite well despite all our inexperience in this matter and this whole thing happening suddenly. The percentage of people who have died, which is a number which we can be sure of, and this number, certainly the number of people who have contracted coronavirus, that may be an underestimate because we have not been able to, go to many people. But in India, it's very difficult to hide deaths because we regard that as a social event where everybody needs to be informed. So, on that basis, our intelligence agencies, our medical agencies all have compiled the data on deaths, not only deaths in hospitals, but even where we are getting reports from houses. And that as a percentage of the number of people contracting it is low, even though the denominator is probably an underestimate. So if the true estimate was there, the death ratio would have been much, much lower than any of these developed countries. And that could be, again, due to our immunities that we have acquired because we have had so many diseases in India which have come and gone, and there have been so many inoculations and vaccinations and so on. So a certain amount of native immunity system we developed in our bodies, and that may be the reason, but it requires a research so that we know how our future lifestyles can be modified. And the I think we could have had even less, deaths or casualties if we had been well careful in the beginning about allowing travelers from China and those who have been to China, those foreigners who had been to China and then were coming to India. We entered the lockdown only on March 25th. It was a bit late, and I think we were under pressure. Government was under pressure to pass the budget, so till 11th March we could not disperse, and therefore we could not just have the country in lockdown and parliament functioning. So I think there's some loss we have suffered because we started late. And we should have cracked down on foreigners coming to India much earlier in February, because we came to know by January 27th that there's one terrible virus which is being spread from China, and anyone coming from China could spread it in your country. Uh, we had also some strange events like this Tabligh conference, which should never have been allowed. I don't know how they. And there you see people came from countries which have banned the Tabligh Jamaat. You see, like for example, Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan, so on. And also from some of the delegates came from Xinjiang in China, and that I don't know how they came, because China doesn't allow these people to go abroad. But anyway, we woke up to it in time, and the damage was limited considerably. But Delhi casualties would have been much less had this Tabligh Jamaat had not been given permission to hold the conference. Now, when it comes to the question of laws, I think we now need a very strict law on biological experiments. Because if you have it without a strictness, it can another coronavirus can be generated, another COVID 21, 22 could be generated. And we must make sure that our country is not used as, you see, after all, this Tata Institute of Fundamental Research is it's a very shameful thing that they should have done this without government permission. And we have now Bill Gates coming in, and the trials that he's conducting of vaccines and so on, they're not tested in America. And we get carried away because Bill Gates did Microsoft, so he must be a great man in every field. It doesn't happen that way. You specialize. I might be good in economics, but I don't know any biology. So these foreigners who are coming to this country, we must have a strict law to see this. And because, after all, they are using us as experiments, which they can't do in their own country. We need strict laws also for the question of how we regard adults, because we found in this corona that the adults were much more amenable to mortality from this corona than people of younger age. So we have to now think in seriously in terms of adult care, and see that families are also tuned in to see that adults are looked after, just not being there to take care of the grandchildren, but looked after their health is monitored. And nowadays it's very easy to monitor with all the electronics that we have, and that should be also done. And I would say that every 6 months they should be subject to a serious blood and urine test through the hospitals. The dilemma today we have, interestingly, is the healthier we have got, the more vulnerable we seem to have become. Because to bring about this health, the immunity system has been kept at bay. And so now it's much easier to contract new diseases because you don't have an advance warning for it, and you don't have a vaccine for it. And at the same time, because you have led a protected life of health, therefore you become a target, a victim. For example, in the United States, it's an advanced country. How can it have so many deaths, so many cases? Much more than India. And that's really because Indians have, because of the circumstances, a better immunity system. And Americans, because they are highly protected from childhood, they become subject to an easy attack by a new disease or new virus. Well, I would say the economy, in our case, is not really. It is accentuated. It has accelerated, but our economy was already doing bad from 2015 September. And I've been writing about it, and I've been saying we are in a tailspin. I've written the Prime Minister letters in 2016, 2 letters in 2017, another 2 letters in 2018, 19 also, and been pointing out the statistics. Unfortunately, all these foreign indicators, foreign companies giving indicators which are now turned against us, like Moody's, they were all giving rosy picture of India, and I was being made to look a bit like somebody who is just criticizing his own party. But actually, I was trying to alert people as an economist that the indicators that I follow, the methodology I use for calculating constant prices and index numbers and so on, are professional, and they give a much more accurate result. And I was saying that the Indian economy. So what we are having today is already a bad economy, which was going to hit the ground. And at that time, the corona virus came. And so we have therefore mass unemployment. I mean, you saw this pathetic case of the workers, were they're called as Pravasi Kamgar, or migrant workers. They came, and the human story in that. So we need now in future to think in seriously in terms of Swadeshi and Vikendrikaran, because it is this centralization and this dependence on technologies which are not easy, which can dispense with labor in no time. We need now more small units, and we need people empowered to be able to do it. So I think we have this coronavirus has accentuated the importance of Swadeshi and Vikendrikaran. I'm sure Tatavan Thegri will be damn pleased, very pleased if he was here and he heard that. So I would say now we will have to move our focus and attention in the economics away from over concentration on foreign investment, which country is bringing, how much is bringing, what does it signify, how we are celebrated all over the world, instead of that, or stock market is booming, and so on. These have become irrelevant in a sense. What's more important is how the salaried classes are going to be able to save, how the salaried classes are going to be able to stand on their own feet, and how they're going to be able to pay their bills. And labor, particularly labor laws, will have to be major ways amended. And health insurance should become now an important part of our labor laws. And make sure that anybody, whether he's a migrant or not a migrant, is a temporary or permanent, will have a backup for health. We also need the Prime Minister's Secretariat needs now a crisis management team with artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence you cannot really study unless you learn Sanskrit. That is now well established. There is no storage of knowledge in the computer in a language which is conducive for computers is only Sanskrit. So I think you will see this happening in our country, that the crisis management team for future such unexpected developments would require artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence to learn and develop expertise, we need Sanskrit. So I think in all ways, while coronavirus has made us all sad and the amount of it has inflicted on us, it has definitely made us think about a major change for the future, a kind of a renaissance in our way of living. And that's how we should look at it in positive terms. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for this wonderful address and opening statement of yours. Now, as for the format which we have with Adhivakta Parishad's Social Legal Talk and Think India's Connect program, we have some of our young folks coming in and asking some of the questions to you, sir. So, for the questioning part, we now move on to Rugved. Over to you, Rugved.
Yeah, namaste.
Dr. Swamy, namaste, sir. Rugved
Yes.
here.
Yes.
Sir, I have a couple of questions for you. Sir, don't you think that the COVID-19 pandemic has reaffirmed that the international legal system is so weak that no effective action can be taken even against the perpetrators of such a large-scale crisis? Because a larger perception has been built in substantial parts of the world that China has acted irresponsibly and negligently in handling COVID-19, which originated in Wuhan. Sir, can we think of some reparations that can be imposed on China, and what kind of legal reforms need to be undertaken by the global community to handle such situations in future and strive towards a safer world? Over to you, sir.
Well, first of all, I think there's no doubt that the virus escaped from a laboratory in China. In fact, in China itself, the doctor who was in charge, he became kind of whistleblower, and somehow mysteriously he disappeared. And when he reappeared, he had already got coronavirus and he died. Now, China didn't do this research alone. As I told you, in the United States, the United States Department of Defense was equally a partner in this research. Of course, the United States is not to blame directly, because they were only in terms of giving the intellectual property for the research, but the research establishment was in the hands of the Chinese. We too, you see, the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, we may say they did it illegally without the knowledge of the government. But how did they have this kind of courage to do it? So I would say this requires a study. I agree with your basic question that we need very strong laws where such a thing happens and so many people die, and it may be carelessness or it may be any other reason, but they must be made to pay. But you must establish it as a rule of law, and not just basis that because the virus came out of China, therefore China is responsible. We need much more investigation, and we'd like to know who are the other countries involved. I've named three. The three countries involved. There may be more, because I know China has large number of foreigners who come. They get cheap research scholars. So, like the way their production system is taken over in a big measure by American and European companies because of the cheap labor of China. So this also, you get researchers who are willing to work 18 hours a day and so on. So I think we need, your basic point is the one I would emphasize. Yes, we need a system by which what you can research and what you can't research. You can't have a Frankenstein monster each time. And two, how to establish the blame. And so therefore, in the beginning, the contract must say that you are responsible for these things, and we are collectively responsible for such and such thing. So you have to have a good law. So I would say that. And then I would say, why did you not clamp down travel once you knew that this is happening? The Chinese told you informally in 27th December, and WHO made it public in 27th January. Then why did you not immediately move in the matter? So certain early warning systems have to be developed in countries, and so that we can work as a united thing, is rather than targeting somebody without fully knowing the facts. I think also would be equally unfair.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for the next question. I'll now invite Pradyumna. So, Pradyumna, over to you.
Sir, namaste. I am
Namaste.
Pradyumna Malpani. I am studying at Symbiosis Law School, Pune. My question to you is, so recently Facebook has announced an investment of 40,000 crores in Reliance Jio platform. After that, Gates Foundation has announced an investment of 7,000 crores. As per the experience of a senior reporter, American-backed companies, like American companies that are also based in India, they aren't accepting Paytm as a payment method, which is backed by Alibaba, that is a Chinese company. While these things are happening, China crosses the border, and at the same time, Nepal changes its tone. So my question is divided into three parts. What has happened in all these years that has changed the tone of Nepal from a tone of a friend to a tone of a foe? Second aspect of the question is, why do we need investment of American companies to become Atmanirbhar? And third aspect of question is, isn't our so-called dear friend Trump playing double standards with us at a time where we need support, international support against China? Over to you, sir.
Well, first of all, I'll start with your last question. We can take care of Chinese without any help from abroad. The question is whether we want to explore ways which are by discussion, whether we can sort it out or not. I would think that more important for us is to also think, why is a country like Nepal speaking like this with us? I mean, I've known Nepal, the king of Nepal, who was killed later, Birendra. King Birendra was my student at Harvard. And he was very helpful to me during the emergency. And when Morarji Desai, when he became prime minister after the emergency, asked me whether you can persuade him to hold elections. And I went there and he immediately agreed, and the elections were held. So we had extremely good relations, and when we went there, you didn't feel like a foreigner. You thought this is another part of a greater India. Now, and there we got lots of Nepalis in our country who are working, and so why did this happen? And I have found a progressive decline since 2005. And the UPA government time, they were all using these Christian missionaries and the left wing. I mean, the Marxists and so on, who were believing in violent methods. They were being promoted by our government. And in fact, the Communist Party leading lights went to Kathmandu and provoked these people. And the scrapping of the Hindu Rashtra label for Nepal was the first sign of it. And I think, therefore, we need more than China. We must first secure all our neighbors. Are you sure that Bhutan is not having secret negotiations with China? I know two countries where I played a role, and I don't think the Chinese made a very big fuss about it. One was Sri Lanka, where we had completely alienated the then president of Sri Lanka, Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa. And since I was his friend over some year, over a period, I brought him around, and then I brought him to Delhi to address a public meeting. And when he saw that public meeting, the response of Indians, he went a big to chain. Then Narendra Modi spent 1 hour with him, one-to-one. And so now he has become solidly with us. And so we must nurture that and maintain that. We nearly lost Sri Lanka because of those crazy LTT mad people who thought that they will form a separate Tamil Elam by using violence and killing its own people. All those who are democratically minded Tamil leaders were all killed not by Sinalis, they were killed by LTT. So, well, that episode was put to an end by Rajapaksa when he was president. And we should have celebrated that, but instead of that, we began trying to, pussyfoot about dragging him to the United Nations for genocide and all that. So, but anyway, they are back. Same thing happened. The coup. There was a coup of sorts in Maldives, and Nasheed, who was the president, he had to flee the country. He was in Sri Lanka when I went there some time ago, and he met me, and then we worked out a way. The government of India also played ball, and there were elections. And I spoke to the Chinese about the fact that if the elections are rigged as the military rulers were planning, then both China and India's reputation will go. And I must say, to the credit of the Chinese, they did cooperate in telling the military rulers that they should not rig the election. And a free and fair election was held, and the military rulers lost. And Nasheed has come back. So these two countries are now solidly with us. I think, therefore, except for Pakistan, which is a gone case, it's a basket case. Pakistan, in my opinion, the only solution is to break it up into 4 parts. But except Pakistan, we should have been more active in getting into Afghanistan. The Americans were ready to fully support us and give us whatever we wanted. But our people are not in the mood. And today it is being taken over by Taliban. And that's going to be a major factor, because Taliban plus Pakistan will be terrible for us on the Western frontier. Now, as far as dealing with China, I don't know what to say, because my dealings with them as behalf of the government, that time Morarji Desai's government, and then as Chandrasekhar's government when I was a minister, we mostly got what we wanted. Kailash Mansarovar, Moraji Desai, in fact, took a bet with me that they'll never agree. But they did agree. Mrs. Gandhi herself requested me to see if the Chinese would agree not to encourage any Assam leaders who are then in agitation there, the ASU and AGP, that their volunteers were planning to go across to China and bring arms and have an armed revolution. And she asked me whether I would ask the Chinese whether they would cooperate, and their senior most leader, Deng Xiaoping, told me, yes, we will arrest them and hand them over to your police. I hope your police are there in the border to receive them. And they have kept it. So this Chinese perfidy came because Jawaharlal Nehru wanted to protect his image. He was the one who sold out Tibet. So Sardar Patel wrote him a letter saying that you must settle the border as a condition for agreeing to Tibet. But Tibet was written off. And then Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee went one step further and agreed to the partition of Tibet into 4 parts. And now the Tibet that is called Tibet province in China is only 1/4 of that. Why did Mr. Vajpayee sign that agreement? I still don't know. So I think we must make up our mind. Do we want to have good relations with China? With respect. Now it's, you ask the Chinese, they'll give you 1,000 reasons why they have broken all the past agreements and come across. We have our reasons. Now this kind of thing can only be cleared if we have a clear mind that we must have a good working relations. After all, didn't we celebrate it before when Modi became Prime Minister? He called Xi Jinping. They went in a Jula together. Then later on in Mahabalipuram in Tamil Nadu, they both went in dhoti, arm in arm. All this bonhomie, and then suddenly everything evaporates. So we must find out what is we don't seem to have an early warning system to tell us that something is going wrong, and when it goes wrong, only you seem to wake up to it. So I think this is the issue that I think I would. We must. It's no use relying on the United States. The United States is a give and take country. Tomorrow, if you ask them to help you militarily, they say we asked you to help us in Afghanistan and you didn't agree. And they are not easily going to get into a fight in which India and China will have a war. All the celebration that takes place in the media that the United States is now going to come to India and leaving China, nothing of the kind, because the Americans in China are not there producing anything. They are joint ventures with China where the semi-processed goods come from East Asia, which they add value and then export it to the West. And because this adding value is a very expensive thing in East Asia because labor costs are high, labor costs are low in China. So therefore, it's beneficial for them. We don't have that kind of infrastructure. And people, when I speak to the Japanese or speak to the South Koreans, they say, well, if you want to buy land in India, it'll take 1 year, 7 years. If you want to travel from Bombay to Delhi, it takes you at least 24 hours, giving all the stops, the octroys, this, that. So we have to, for us to attract the same way that China did. First of all, I don't know whether a democracy can go that fast as China did. But anyway, we want a democracy and we are committed to it, and we fought for it in the emergency too. So I don't care if we go slow. But the fact is that ultimately you must create an environment where people want to come here. And you can't just simply say, oh, now they have been shut out from China, so they'll come running to India. They will go to Vietnam, they will go to Bangladesh, which is what is happening today. So I think let's look inward a bit and make up our mind. What do we want? Do we want good relations with China, or we want to combat China with the help of the Americans, or the Americans have a plan, whether we want to be part of that plan? Do we want to be a joint junior partner of the Americans like the Japanese and the Australians, or we want to be an equal partner? Will they accept us as an equal partner? All these are things to be considered. I can't really say you should have a big seminar one day for 2 days. Maybe we get more clarity in what I'm saying.
Thank you, sir. This topic indeed require a lot of deliberation and a lot of guidance from you, sir. However, in the interest of time, we have next question actually coming from Yogesh. So over to you, Yogesh.
Okay. Thank you, Ashish, and very good evening, sir. So my
Good.
question is very relevant and common to you. It is frequently coming. These questions are frequently coming to you, but it's popular question in the chat box, so I have to go with it. So lockdown was imposed with the belief that India would be able to deal or eliminate COVID-19 from the face of India frequently or early in the earlier lockdowns. So
Yes.
we extended them. So the initial motto was to use the Brahmastra in toto, that is total economic and human lockdown. So on the entire country, though the initially small part was under the infection or spread, and thus by doing so we are able to contain COVID-19 successfully or quite significantly as compared to the western world or developed country. But when it comes to the economical perspective, do you think
Yes.
that it is an unplanned move at the beginning, and as India could see a significant contraction in GDP, in fact it could cause shrink about 10% of its original volume, causing total estimate loss about 20 lakh crores of possible income, and this will be a historic fiscal depreciation in last 40 years. So what is your view on the same? What advice you would like to give in order to decide the forthcoming economical measures to sustain our economy in the future? Thank you.
Well, you see, I've written about this in four installments, and the fifth installment is coming on Sunday in the Sunday Guardian. And so, if you go to Sunday Guardian's website, you'll see it all. But let me summarize this. First of all, be very clear that the economy is not declined like in the United States. United States, the economy has gone into a recession because of the COVID-19 or coronavirus. It's due to that. In our case, it has got worse because of coronavirus, but we were already going down. In fact, before the coronavirus entered India, let's say end of February, our GDP had already fallen to 3%, and I suppose it'll be negative for about 5.5% by the time we come to 1st April 2021, and because it's the coronavirus will have accentuated it. We have caused massive unemployment in the country. We have caused massive cut in profits of companies. And government itself is out of the present resources it has exhausted most of it. So what do? So first of all, in a brief, let me say that what is the problem with the Indian economy? The Indian economy's problem today is, now everybody is saying it, but when I first said it, people didn't believe it. And that is that we have a demand shortage. We really don't have, relative to the demand shortage, a supply shortage. So to take measures which help promoting demand, which means, in my opinion, putting money into the hands of the people to go and spend. And these migrant workers, we shouldn't have allowed them to leave. We should have said, yes, listen, how much money you are getting, we'll give it to you. Of course, you need a system for reaching it. Maybe all the things that Modi had set into motion about Aadhaar card and so on and so forth, we may have had a system where the money could go. He had, in fact, in one or two schemes, sent money directly into the bank accounts of people. So that should have been tried. And tell people, go and buy. And every day there will be a lockdown, but between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the evening, you can go and buy your vegetables, provided you have the social distancing and your mask. And if you don't have, you'll be arrested. So that way, we should have not done this in 4 hours notice, in a sudden announcement. I think that has definitely was an overkill, in my opinion. So today, empower the people to go and buy. And Prime Minister announced 20 lakh crore package, but in that only 1% is stimuli. Stimuli means giving money and saying go and spend. No questions asked. Americans are doing that. Trump has ensured that every employee in his bank account gets his at least 60-65% of his salary. So that we are not doing. We are saying credit, we are making it easy to get credit. I mean, who's going to take credit? Who's going to take a loan when his existing stocks are not being sold? So it has been an unthinking economic response, and it's been highly bureaucratic. And I think this has been the problem with the finance ministry. It is you have to have some dynamism. You must know. See, the economy is a matrix. You are all science students, I'm sure, or at least you know enough science to know what a matrix is. And a matrix means something you do here, the effect is felt somewhere else. This is the quarrel I had with Raghuram Rajan. He said, I'm raising interest rates so that inflation can be controlled. I said, yes, you may control the inflation, but you will also make the cost of capital very high, and the small and medium industries will start closing down, and there will be unemployment. And I said, you can't be like a doctor who says, I don't know how to control temperature, high temperature of my patient, except by killing him. If I kill him, the temperature will come down. That's not what we want. We want a healthy person whose temperature comes down. So this is the essential problem. Even today, we do not have a demand-stimulating stimuli. And all we have is all these fancy sounding terms about on credit and so on. And therefore, I don't think you will have your economy improving even if the lockdown is removed. It's only going to get worse.
Thank you, sir, for your words. And we all have seen the efficacy of your words about Honorable Raghuram Rajanji and what happened afterwards. So
Yeah.
hopefully,
Too bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I
Yeah.
turned out to be right. It's very sad.
Yeah, and hopefully we really don't want to end up like this in the present scenario as well. Sir, now the next question is coming from
नमस्ते सर। सर
सचिन
मेरा क्वेश्चन इसी नमस्ते से है। यस सर, मेरा क्वेश्चन इसी नमस्ते से है।
मेरा प्रश्न
जी सर, हमारे मतलब ये नमस्ते जो है पूरे विश्व में फेमस, हमारा प्रश्न जो है पूरे विश्व में हमारी नमस्ते फेमस हो गई है, प्रसिद्ध हो चुकी है। और क्योंकि तो हम किस प्रकार से भारतीय संस्कृति और जीवन शैली को ग्लोबली फैला सकते हैं, मतलब विश्व पटल पर किस तरीके से फैला सकते हैं, जैसे कि आयुर्वेदा और संस्कृति को, मतलब और संस्कृत भाषा को किस प्रकार से हम विश्व पटल पर फैला सकते हैं और इसका प्रसार कर सकते हैं। इसमें सरकार की और स्कॉलर्स की क्या क्या भूमिका होनी चाहिए आपके अनुसार?
देखिए, पहले तो विश्व में जाने के पहले हम लोगों की जो मंशा है, हमारी जो चेतना है, इस पर महापरिवर्तन करने की आवश्यकता है। और आज हमारी चेतना में और हमारी जो मंशा है उसमें हीन भावना भरा हुआ है, ईर्ष्या भरा हुआ है, और ये इसको दूर निकाल, इसको हटाना है जब आपको अपनी देश की वास्तविक इतिहास पता लगेगी। हम लोगों को आज भी अंग्रेजों ने जो पढ़ाया वही पढ़ रहे हैं और उसमें हीन भावना आना स्वाभाविक है। तो पहली बात मैं ये कहूँगा। दूसरी बात मैं कहूँगा कि ये शीघ्र नहीं हो सकता, परंतु धीरे धीरे हो सकता है, परंतु कम से कम धीरे धीरे के लिए तो कुछ योजना बनाने की आवश्यकता है। वो है सबको देवनागरी सिखानी चाहिए और जबरदस्ती नहीं सिखानी चाहिए। उन सबको कहना है आपको संस्कृत सीखना है तो हम मुफ्त में आपके लिए या निःशुल्क आपके लिए हम व्यवस्था कर देंगे। और क्योंकि भविष्य में आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस की जो भाषा होगी वो संस्कृति होगी, उसके लिए कई रिसर्च हुए हैं। आप गूगल में जाकर कहेंगे, टाइप करेंगे संस्कृत फॉर आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, आपको अनेक पढ़ने के लिए साइटेशंस मिलेंगी। इंग्लैंड में सेंट जेम्स स्कूल है, जहाँ बच्चों को 6 साल से 11 साल को सुबह आधा घंटा वो संस्कृत श्लोका बोलने के लिए विवश करते हैं। और प्रिंसिपल कहता है कि मेरी राय है, मेरी रिसर्च के अनुसार इन श्लोका को रोज 6 साल के बच्चे से 11 साल के लड़के तक यानी इसकी जब करोगे, इसकी प्रवचन करोगे, तो फिर तुम्हारी जो ब्रेन है या मस्तिष्क है, उसकी जो डेवलपमेंट है वो कई गुना ज्यादा होगी दूसरे स्टूडेंट्स की तुलना में। अब ये सारी चीजें पता लग गई है। योगा तो सबने मान लिया है, तो किसी में जबरदस्ती करने की जरूरत नहीं है। दुनिया में धीरे धीरे आ रही है, अभी लेख भी आने लग गए हैं। एक 2009 में न्यूज वीक ने लिखा, नाउ वी ऑल आर हिंदूज। यानी वो कह रहे हैं कि हमारे देश अमेरिका क्रिश्चियन होने के बावजूद जो हिंदुओं कहते हैं उसी को हम ज्यादा आजकल वैज्ञानिक मानते हैं। उदाहरण, दफन करने के बजाय अंत्येष्टि करें अग्नि से। इसी प्रकार से उन्होंने कई उदाहरण दिए हैं, आप जाकर गूगल से उसको निकाल सकते हैं। अगस्त 2009 में लीजा मिलर, जो एडिटर थी न्यूज वीक की, उसने लिखा है, नाउ वी आर ऑल हिंदूज। तो हमारे गुरुज भी जाते हैं, श्री श्री रविशंकर और बाबा रामदेव, ये सब लोग, इतनी भीड़ लगती है। उन्हीं के लोग, यानी हमारे लोग नहीं, जो वहाँ के जो स्थानीय लोग हैं या जो सफेद चमड़े के लोग हैं, वो सब वहाँ इतनी बड़ी भीड़ में आते हैं क्योंकि वो मनस की शांति चाहते हैं, उससे सीखें। तो मैं ये कहता हूँ कि भारतीय संस्कृति हो, और धीरे धीरे हमारे देश में भी नौजवान जब पढ़ने के लिए जाते हैं या फैक्ट्री में काम करने के लिए जाते हैं तो ये पश्चिमी ड्रेस पहन सकते हो, परंतु रविवार तो कम से कम कुर्ता पैजामा पहनो और अपनी भारतीयता दिखाओ। हमारी महिला तो आज भी अधिकांश लोग साड़ी ही पहन रहे हैं। मैं कहता हूँ ये मंशा पैदा करने की बात है। तो धीरे धीरे इस प्रकार से हमारे देश में एक जब चेतना जग जाएगी और हमारे जो पूर्वजों ने जो चाहा था उसके अनुसार हम अपने जीवन में आगे बढ़े, और ये सारा जो झूठे आर्यन द्रविडियन थियोरी और ये जो वर्णा है, जन्म से बना है, ये सारी झूठों को धोकर एक भारतीय ऐसा खड़ा करना चाहिए जो कश्मीर से कन्याकुमारी तक और डिब्रूगढ़ से जामनगर तक हर भारतीय अपने को भारतीय माने, उस प्रकार की मंशा पैदा करने की आवश्यकता है।
धन्यवाद सर। विश्व विजय से पहले आत्म विजय की जो आपने अभी कुंजी सबको बताई है, मेरे ख्याल से जागरूकता की, वो काफी महत्वपूर्ण है। सर, वी अंडरस्टैंड दैट यू हैव अदर प्रोग्राम्स scheduled at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
And a number of questions still coming from people. So can we have one or two more questions, sir? Or
yes, one or two more. And you can tell them to send me by email. I'll answer them.
Sure, sir. So before we conclude, can we take one question?
Yes.
Can we take one more question? Yeah.
Yes.
All right, sir. So the next question is coming from Rugved, sir. So over to you, Rugved.
Tell me anyway the substance.
There is a common notion. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. There is a common notion that the judiciary or the Supreme Court in particular is reluctant to question the actions of the executive when the country is going through an emergency or a major crisis. Sir, you yourself played a major role in reviving and restoring the democracy in India against the backdrop of the 1975 emergency. Sir, some people are now questioning the probity of the judiciary attributed by its so-called reluctance to strike down the executive actions during the COVID-19 pandemic. So my question to you, sir, is is such a comparison between the 1975 emergency and the COVID-19 pandemic with respect to the role of judiciary well-founded and tenable? And second is, do you think the state of our judiciary during this pandemic is that gloomy? Over to you, sir.
Well, in India, nothing is gloomy. I remember in 1957, there was a foreign exchange crisis, and everybody said, "You're finished now. And rupee will go to 10,000 rupees to a dollar," and all that. Nothing of the kind happened. Then 1965, there was a drought in our country. We didn't have food grains. We were begging the Americans. They were sending PL 480. And the New York Times had a headline, "India is surviving ship to mouth." यानी हमारे मुंह पर हमारे मुंह के अंदर चावल आने के लिए जहाज के इंतजार में बैठे हैं और पूजा कर रहे हैं कि जल्दी आ जाए जहाज. ये हालत थी. फिर ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन हुई और 10 साल के अंदर हम निर्यात करने लगे. हमारे आई थिंक वी स्टार्टेड एक्सपोर्टिंग. So therefore, we had a huge foreign exchange problem when I was minister, just become minister, Chandrasekhar government, and everybody said we will have to declare default. And some of us, I was not in it. I was opposed to it. Some of us in the cabinet wanted to auction gold, which was there at the Reserve Bank. Fortunately, it was too late to do it, and only something went out, and then it came back also. So I think India is a country which is undefeatable. It can't be defeated. Look at the Islamic invasion. They were here in this country for 600 years. In Iran, they were there for 15 years, and they made them all 100% Muslim. They made Mesopotamia and Babylon, which is now called Iraq, they made them in 17 years 100% Muslim. Egypt became Muslim in 21 years. Europe became 100% Christian in 50 years. But India, 600 years of Islam and 200 years of Christianity, and you're still 82%. So this country can't be defeated because of our decentralized system and the enormous culture, the past culture, which is there in our system. It is not being articulated. So I have no doubt at all that all these problems that you're facing today will overcome, and by 2030 we will overtake China, and by 2040 we will be a challenge to the United States on innovation, and therefore we will defeat the Americans on innovation. We'll overtake them and go ahead of America also. This is what I visualize for India.
Thank you very much, sir, for this visualization, and your prophecies have always been spot on, and we believe 2030 will see that resurgence of India. So, sir, before we end, there's one question which is coming from all the audiences which we have, live audiences. The
Yes.
question is about the Deccan Herald and the so-called
National
family. Yeah, I'm sorry,
National Herald.
National Herald case, sir, and the so-called family
Yes.
that has looted, I mean to say, in a way, to the country. So
Yes.
people have questions about that, sir. Whether we will again be having some same kind of prophecy in those cases, and your quick comment on that, sir.
Well, at the moment, they are these 7 people who are accused, which includes Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Motilal Vora, Asghar Fernandez, Sam Pitroda, and this Suman Dubey. And then, of course, there's an institutional young Indian that's also got taken as an accused. So these were found prima facie guilty, and they went in appeal to High Court, dismissed. Then they went in appeal to Supreme Court, dismissed. So they then had to come and take. They were arrested in Patiala House Court, and the court asked me, "Do I have any objection to their bail application?" I said, "No, I don't want them in TR jail just now. I want them later on a more permanent basis." So they were given. They had to, I think, give 50,000 rupees as bond and surety. Miss Sonia Gandhi gave Mr. Our man who was our defense minister, I forget his name, chief minister of Kerala, Anthony, as a surety, and Rahul Gandhi gave his sister Priyanka as surety. In case Rahul Gandhi runs away, then Priyanka will automatically be arrested and put in jail. So that's the meaning of surety, and so on. So then the question of my cross examination came. There are 7 accused, each of them as a senior lawyer, and they're gone asking questions, gone asking questions. And mine is not based on witnesses that somebody saw somebody shooting or taking out a knife. Mine are based on documents. And every document they'll say, no, we don't agree, it's a genuine document. So I have to call a witness, and that witness has to prove that this is a genuine document. So this kind of, even documents they themselves are submitted to the court, they are now disowning, saying, no, you prove that it is that we are submitted to the court. So all kinds of delaying tactics are there, but don't lose heart. In the beginning, there was some obstruction from Mr. Arun Jaitley, but now he's not there, and the Prime Minister has made sure that there's no block for me. And so I would think that once this corona matter, all the adjournments that have taken place since March are due to the corona. And once it is over, the cross-examination will take place. I've already done several hours of cross-examination. And very soon that will be concluded. Then charges will be framed and trial will start. So if there is no new crisis in terms of health hazards or closed down or locked down, I would say that by next year, spring 2021, you should see all these people in jail, because there's no escape to it. They have done fraud. It's on the records, and it has been prima facie proved. Now the only thing the court has to see is what is their explanation, and there's no explanation. And so I am 100% certain of winning, unless, of course, somebody from the government, our government, starts blocking it. I don't think anyone is there capable of doing that, and nor will the Prime Minister allow it. So therefore, I'm sure that this will be taken to a logical conclusion. I told you Ram Mandir will be made. Everybody said, nah, aise bol raha hai, kal kahega, parson kahega, aise badhate jayega. But I said, no, it will be done. I was only late by 7 months. And that 7 months was because some mediation business came in the way. But otherwise, I predicted it, and it happened. So I said Chidambaram will be going to jail and for custodial interrogation. He went there for 106 days. And people said, nobody can be, Chidambaram will never go. He's a lawyer. He knows this judge, he knows that judge. As far as our judges are concerned today, Supreme Court, High Court, I'm not talking about individual cases. There are 1 or 2 people and they got transferred recently. But I would say our Supreme Court judges are very fine people, and they have a problem. You come to during this kind of crisis period and you want things to change. How are the judges supposed to know what what needs to be done? They can see whether something is flouting a law or not flouting a law. And if they think that it's not flouting the law, they will say, no, what the government is doing is correct. I don't think you should have such high expectations that the job of the Supreme Court is to oppose the government and prevent them from moving forward.
Thank you very much, sir, for enlightening us with your thoughts, and especially about the Ram Mandir topic, which you said, and even the construction has now begun. So thank you very much for this enlightening session, sir. And we understand that you have your next engagement for you. And on behalf of the organizers, once again, I would like to thank you for giving your precious time for us.
Welcome.
Yes,
this
sir.
is Parivar's program, so you're welcome anytime.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much for your time, sir, once again. And I would like to thank the audiences from across the country and the world over for joining us for this session. And as a small request for all the persons who are listening and tuning into this program, please like and follow our Facebook and YouTube channels and subscribe us, so that next time when we have Dr. Swamy and other eminent persons like him on the channel, you will get notifications very quickly. So once again, thank you very much, everyone, for this wonderful program. Thank you, Dr. Swamy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.